All right, today we're going to talk about how to set up your beginner bodybuilding diet program. So if you've ever struggled to just set up a program, this is the episode for you. Now, this is not a meal plan, but a framework that will help you create meal plans around any type of dieting you want to do. I mean, keto, carnivore, not that I recommend that, IIFYM, whatever you want to do, this structure will help you create whatever fits into your schedule. And I want you to stick around till we get to the section about meal timing because it's not really what you think and it could be very helpful. Let's get to the episode. All right, first thing we need to do is establish what our maintenance calories are. And there are a couple ways you can do that. Now, you can use an estimate, you can use a formula, or you can do what I like to do, and that is to track your calories and track your weight over the course of 2 weeks. So what is maintenance calories? Maintenance calories are the number of calories it takes for you to maintain your weight at your current level of physical activity and your current calorie intake. I think using an example would be good in this scenario. So let's take a 200 pound novice bodybuilder, beginner bodybuilder, and that will be our avatar for sort of creating this plan. And instead of tracking our calories every day for 2 weeks, we're just going to use a sort of calorie calculating method that I found. 3DMJ uses this, and it's in the muscle and strength pyramid. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the 200 pound bodybuilder and we're going to multiply his weight by 10. This sort of gives us a baseline of calories that we can then use a multiplier on to create sort of the maintenance levels of calories that we need. 200 times 10 is 2,000. Then you want to think about the type of physical activity at your level or at this particular bodybuilder's level. For this example, the calorie multiplier on the low end is going to be 1.3. Now that's low activity. You lift weights 3 to 6 times a week and you're not doing much outside of that. So that's 1.3. On the high end, you're getting in the 2 to 2.2 range of a multiplier. That is working out, training 3 to 6 days a week. And on top of that, you are highly active. So I'm gonna use myself, I'm gonna insert myself into this and use myself as an example. I'm not 200, but we're gonna pretend that I am. And my activity is relatively high. I only train 2 days a week, but my activity outside of that is very high because I have 2 little boys and they keep me moving. So we're not gonna go completely to the very high end of 2.2. We're not gonna be at the very bottom. I like a number about 1.7, and that's what you should really start thinking about whenever you are doing this for yourself. You want to estimate, which is fine because that's what we're doing. We're setting this up. You want to estimate your activity level. And so I'm going 1.75, and then we're going to multiply that by our baseline of 2,000. Now that we have our baseline of 2,000 multiplied by 1.75, we get 3,500 calories, which magically enough, that is the current amount of calories that I'm intaking right now. So it'll be a really easy number for me to talk about. A word on the more accurate method that I had mentioned earlier. So tracking for 2 weeks. What you would do in that scenario is you would weigh yourself every morning. You step on the scale, same time every morning, after using the restroom. You write that on your calendar. Then you do it again and again and again. And at the end of the week, you take the average across that week and you write that number down. So you have that. You don't do anything else outside of that. You do the same thing for the following week. You weigh yourself every morning in the same clothes, after using the restroom, clothes or no clothes, depending on how you wake up, and then you average that weight at the end of the week. While you do this, you're also going to be tracking the amount of calories that you're taking in. And this is where you get the beautiful amount of information, because you're going to be able to average out your calories across the course of the week, which you haven't tried to modify, you haven't tried to change. We're really just looking for what calories sort of sustain and maintain your current weight. So you track your weight across the week, you track your calories across the week, and then you're able to figure out what is maintaining your current body weight. Although I find this to be a more accurate way of doing things, we don't need something perfect. All we need is a starting number, because what's most important is the modifications that you make after that. Don't get too much into the weeds. Just pick a method that suits your lifestyle. And if you want to get going now, try the multiplier method and let's get going with that. The next thing we want to focus on is macronutrient distribution. So we have our 3,500 calories, and then we want to start looking at the macros. I think a lot of you are probably familiar with the macros, but let's just review. So you've got proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and alcohol. Not that any of us drink or anything like that, but alcohol's in there. Proteins have 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates also have 4 calories per gram. Fats have 9 calories per gram, and alcohol has 7. The reason I include alcohol is because the point of setting up a diet, for me personally, is to help a person maintain the lifestyle that they have with minor modifications to reach specific body composition goals. I don't think that you have to cut out everything in your life to achieve certain body composition standards that you set for yourself outside of extreme situations. So I include alcohol in there just because I know a lot of people like to socialize and they like to maybe have 1 or 2 drinks a week, and I think that is perfectly fine. And I've worked with people who drank a little bit on the weekends. They did some modifying, but alcohol can be included in a diet that still changes your body composition. Thinking of protein first, in the literature and in my experience, this is mostly just coming from my experience, anywhere from 1.6 to 3.1 grams per kilo, or in pounds, like most of us talk, around 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight is a good range for protein. I'm a very simple person, so I really enjoy sticking to the 1 gram per pound of body weight. It falls right within that range. It aligns with most of the literature we currently have, and so sticking to 1 gram per pound of body weight is good. So going back to our bodybuilder example, our bodybuilder is 200 pounds, he has 3,500 calories. That means protein-wise, he's gonna need to be taking in 200 grams of protein. Surprisingly, the second thing we wanna look at are fats, not carbohydrates. The reason we want to do this, I find them to be the second most important macronutrient, and most coaches that I've talked to also set fat levels before you set carbohydrates. The reason that I personally set fat ranges second after protein is because I think they have a greater impact on overall hormonal levels, a bit more than carbohydrates, and based on the literature and my experience, anywhere from half a gram to 1 or 1.5 grams per kilo of body weight is going to be sort of an optimal range. You're going to want to explore this range of fats to figure out what works for you. So that's not just going to be this whole setup. It's going to take weeks and months of trying to figure out what you feel like on a certain amount of calories and a certain amount of fats, and being able to tease that apart. Future episodes, hopefully I can help you out and we can figure that out together. But for right now, stick with something conservative. I would start somewhere in between half a gram to a gram per kilo of body weight for your fats. For our example bodybuilder who is 200 pounds, consuming 200 grams of protein, what is his body weight in kilos? I think that's about 90 kilos. And so with the half a gram to a gram per kilo of body weight, you're looking at anywhere from, on the very bottom end, 45 grams, and then on the highish end, 90 grams. Now, is that an absolute high end? No, it's pretty relative. This again is just a range, and the range could expand even more depending on the type of dieting that you're doing. Like if you're doing a ketogenic diet, no doubt it would be probably double that high end number or something like that. But this is a conservative range that I think is supported by literature. For our bodybuilder, I think we should stick with sort of a middle of the road number. So 70 grams. 70 grams, nice round number between 45 and 90, not too high, not too low. And that nets out to about 630 calories. 630 calories plus 200 grams of protein times 4, 800 calories. You're looking at about 1,430 calories so far of our 3,500. On to carbs. So we now have our protein grams and calories. We have our fat grams and calories. Now we just need to fill in the back end with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are important and they fuel our workouts and they are muscle sparing to some degree. However, in terms of our functioning and our ability to perform, they're sort of the stepchild macronutrient, if you will. And so we want to fill them in last with the remaining calories. What we're gonna look at is we're gonna take that 3,500, we're gonna take the addition of the protein and fat calories, and we're gonna subtract that out. 800 calories from protein, 630 calories from fat, added together 1,430, and we're gonna take that from 3,500, and you're gonna get about 2,070 calories remaining. From there, we're gonna take the number of calories and carbohydrates, and we're gonna divide that into 2070, which leaves you with about 517.5. We're just gonna round up and make it easy and make it 518. Finally, we have our macronutrient set for this hypothetical 200-pound bodybuilder who maintains body weight on 3,500 calories based on an activity calculator. Not perfect, but it's a baseline. It's where we wanna start, and then we want to move from there. So we have 200 grams of protein, 70 grams of fat, and 518 grams of carbohydrates. So meal timing. What should meal timing look like for this athlete? And by meal timing, it's not really what you think. I'm not talking really about peri-workout nutrition or how many hours in between meals you should be eating. I'm talking about how you should distribute your meals throughout the day to optimally engage in this type of dieting. Optimally means what fits into our schedule, what can we adhere to. So I'll just talk about myself just because I know my schedule better than anybody else's. So I eat 3 larger meals in the day, and I have 1 sort of peri-workout shake, which some people wouldn't even count that as a meal, but I think it's a meal. It's enough calories. It sustains me during my workout. 3 big meals I do for myself because 1, it fits into my schedule, 2, it fits into my kid's schedule, and 3, I like the feeling of being full. That's me. I'm not chasing satiety. I know that deeper into a deficit, I'm going to be hungry. However, if I have the opportunity to eat a meal that makes me feel full, not stuffed, I'm gonna take that opportunity because it satisfies me. So for me, and for this hypothetical 200-pound athlete, 3 meals a day and 1 peri-workout shake. Peri-workout just means around your workout, is enough to sustain, maintain, and even grow muscle mass if you're in a surplus. You need to start thinking about what your schedule is like and distribute your meals in such a way that it fits into open slots into your schedule. Generally, I think if your meal frequency falls anywhere from 3 to 6 times a day, that's the sweet spot. Not too much, not too little, enough to maintain muscle mass, enough to grow muscle mass. And so if you can fit 3 to 6 meals into your schedule, that's probably gonna be the right range for you. Now, if you fall slightly outside that range, like let's say you're a fan of slightly higher meal frequencies, are you gonna grow any less or be able to maintain less? No, not necessarily. If you eat 2 meals a day, I think if you push me, I don't think that's optimal for muscle growth, but for maintenance, possibly. But I think trying to fit meals in the 3 to 6 range, putting nutrition around your workouts is going to be enough to maintain. So give that a shot. One last point. Don't shoot for optimal or trendy. I know that I use the word optimal, but in a sense, I meant optimal for me. I think where I've seen most of my clients sort of fall off and not be able to sustain something is when they shot for number 1, optimal, number 2, trendy, or you could flip those 2, trendy, optimal. Now, what I mean by trendy is what's the flavor of the day in fitness culture? When IFYM came about, it was all about how many Pop-Tarts you could shove into your diet. And then keto came along somewhere in there and people were all fat crazy and fat bomb this and fat bomb that. And then you have, sort of vegan diets and things like that. If you've never tried that, I'm sure some people can sustain that. But I think going for the trendy thing is going to cause you to fall off the wagon. Trendy, although cool and offers some benefits, I think the constraints that they put on what you're able to intake are more cost, or the cost outweigh the benefits. Similarly, don't shoot for optimal. I think if you read enough of the literature, read enough books, you will begin to start believing things about what is optimal, and then you will begin to sort of shape your life around that information, which is kind of backwards. I think you should take sort of a evidence-based perspective. You should take expertise, your informed sort of experience of the world and the literature, and sort of mold those things together. And then if you do that, you'll probably be able to come up with an answer that not only fits the literature, but suits your lifestyle. Remember, whatever you can adhere to is going to be the optimal answer for you. Now we have our numbers, and our hypothetical bodybuilder is ready to do something. Does he want to grow? Does he want to cut? Does he want to maintain? The next video will show you how to modify your maintenance calories for a particular goal, probably going to be cutting, so check that one out next. See you next time.